Welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Maksymizing Life, no other than Miss Valerie Maksym.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yes, Miss Valerie, thank you for your time. And can you please introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Valerie Maksym. I'm from the Woodlands, Texas. I am an empty nester and I have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. I'm an author of my first book, writing my second book right now, a life coach, public speaker, and personal trainer.
That be awesome, Miss Valerie. So, what age did you realize that you are good in writing?
I'm still trying to realize that. It's interesting because that's never been my strength. So it's definitely just been something that I wrote from my heart. So I can't say I'm improving. Let's just say that I'm improving each time. This next book, I'm improving from my first book.
Can I say that you are hot grandma? Can I
Thank you.
say that in the public? Yes, it is. You are a hot grandma.
Thank you.
So, who influenced you in your writing?
You know, I don't really have anyone who really influenced me per se. I had a mentor that kept me going, that kept pulling out my creative side and kept like meeting me for coffee and sitting down and saying, you can do this and giving me lots of different things to think about, to keep my creative juices going. So maybe I would have to say, if I had to pick one person, it would have been my friend Alan.
Oh, is it Alan? He's a writer too.
He's not a writer, but I think he could be a writer.
That be awesome. Who are your favorite authors then?
I really like Mel Robbins. I really enjoy, her books. There's so many people you're asking. I have a lot of John Maxwell's books. I like, let me see, I have Tony Robbins books. I like all the inspirational writers. I like hearing their stories and their way of inspiring other people.
So, if you describe the writing of Mr. Maxwell, what is it?
He's to me, he's just pretty, quick to the point on things. Like he has this minute with Maxwell. He's just very, his writing to me would be more, I don't want to say basic, but yet it's just very clean, clear cut, just to the point. Just quick little ideas is how I take his reading.
Yes, indeed. So, let's talk about your debut book, Maximizing Life. How did you craft it?
It just kind of actually fell together in the chapters, the way the chapters were written out. I actually wrote the book 3 times before I finalized it. So I had, it took me 2 years because the first time I wrote it, I wrote things that, you're kind of venting and healing. So you're like, okay, that doesn't need to go out for the world to read. And then the second time I really pulled back the opposite spectrum and I wasn't writing enough in it. And then the third time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to share my journey of how I went from self-doubt to self-confidence. And I just laid out the first 4 chapters are how I did that, the steps I took. So I had that. And then I wrote a formula for goal setting, because once I got to, getting my life like under control, that I could actually start setting some goals. I knew with my ADD that I needed a way to, had to really write out a plan of how I was going to follow through with my goals. So it's F plus C is M square. I have a formula I wrote for that. And then I had my kids. My kids had a chapter where they shared some of their takeaways of my life, of who I was before and who I've become. And then I gave a 30-day challenge at the end. So that's kind of the layout of my book.
Very well said, Miss Valerie. So, maximizing life. What behind the title of your debut book?
Just really taking the time out to realize that our life is so many things. If you just focus on one area, you're going to be out of balance, right? So it's everything from emotional, physical, financial, relationships. There's so many areas of our life. So maximizing life is I try to shed light on every area of your life, doing something each day to take it one step further, to every single day to grow in all areas. So you're keeping your life balanced.
So, maximizing the word itself you got from your last name.
Yes.
Ah, interesting, people, because maximizing is spelled like this, people. Maksymizing. So that very cool, Miss Valerie. Maximizing life. What do you think? The best highlight.
One of the best highlights of my book are a vision that I had. And I share in my book about my vision. And it was like something was just speaking to me. And I have never had this happen before. And so I had to stop and record it. And it just said, Valerie, you've been in control your entire life as to when you get to soar and go the places you want to go and experience the things you want to experience. And the reason that your airplane basically was correlating my life to an airplane, the reason you haven't taken off is because your plane is filled to the top with heavy weight of baggage of your past that you've chosen to hang on to and not let go of and not forgive and not and deal with it. You've just chosen to hang on to it. So by hanging on to the heaviness of your baggage, your plane is way too heavy to ever take off. And because you've been healing and you've let one bag out at a time, your plane is now light, and it's so light that you're going to soar to places that you never thought possible.
Very well said, Miss Valerie. So before we go on, I want to shout out the people listening following countries. According to my Apple chart in Rwanda, I got 49 spot on the Apple chart. In Ghana, I got 104. In Tanzania, at number 43. Of course, in Zambia, I got number 8. Thank you so much for giving me on the number 8 spot on Apple chart in Zambia. In Mongolia at number 14. Libya at number 47. Cameroon at number 68. Algeria at 125, Egypt at 132, Denmark at 133, Canada 135, and Georgia at 201. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Miss Valerie Maksym. Valerie, are you indie or a traditional publishing?
I am a self publisher.
Great. So, what are the pros and cons of being an indie author?
You know, I don't know a whole lot of having someone publish my book. So the pros are that I was able to have control over the whole thing. So I, got to design my cover and in my book and put it up on Amazon. And I don't really know I guess the cons are, if I had a publisher, then it could go probably to more places than I'm able to do it on my own.
Yes, indeed. So, do you think in the future you will be a traditional publishing?
In the future, I would like to, yes.
So, let's talk about maximizing life. If you want to go back and revise the book, which chapter do you want to revise?
If I was going to revise the book, if I was going to revise the book, looking at it, I would put more of my story in it. I put just a lot of, the things that I did to go from, living in self doubt to finding self confidence. I didn't put a lot of my personal story in it, because I think I was just still healing and not really sure about how to share everything I've been through with the world. So I think if I went back, I would add a little more of that to it.
Yes. What do you think? Which chapter of the book you enjoy the most?
What chapter did I enjoy the most? I enjoyed many chapters for different reasons, but I'll have to say chapter 9, the impact of one decision, I have to say with my kids, hearing what they had to say about my life when I was broken and, not living my best life, how it affected them. And so when I asked them to write, to go into my book, I said they could share anything they want. Like it's, I'm not going to correct them because it's their feelings of, them seeing me when I was broken as a mom and seeing me today. So having them share and really being able to understand, why they acted out and why they behaved the way they did was simply because they were hurting because they were watching me hurt. So I found it I was very excited that my kids would even take the time to write something, to put in my book, to be vulnerable like that. So that's probably is my favorite part because they added to it.
Yes, indeed, Miss Valerie. So, maximizing life. What are your struggles in writing?
My struggles in writing are being vulnerable enough, putting myself out there and really creating the story from exactly a authentic way of, what the things that I've been through. Sometimes you don't want to really share everything because I've healed from all of these things. So really talking about a lot of the things in my past is a little bit hard for me to do because I feel like I'm talking about a different person. And so I just kind of will skim over it really fast. But I do find when I do speak places and I stop and I really share the details, how I was feeling, and I put more emotion in it, and just really painting the picture, that it seems to really touch people a lot more because they can relate to a lot of the things I've been through. I've been through things like watching my dad die in front of me. I've been through things like a husband trying to kill me. I've been through things of children being on drugs, going to jail. I've been through so many things in my life that they're painful things, and sometimes it's really hard to be vulnerable and really share. And so I do know in my writing that I do have to get a little bit more vulnerable because that's when I connect more to my audience.
Yes, people, maximizing life. In writing this book of yours, did you let it go? All the things happen to you, or the bad things happen to you?
Yes, this it was very healing. I A lot of times I even forget half of the things I've been through. My kids are like, "Mom, do you remember this or that?" And I really have completely healed and let go of just everything of my past. It's been a journey. It's taken me going through a lot of things to get to that point in my life, but it's been worth it.
Yes, people, maximizing life. Where did you categorize this book, Miss Valerie?
It's under self-help.
I read a lot of self-help, and they're really good, people, because you're gonna learn from it, from their perspective of life. They're gonna teach you how to survive. They're gonna teach you to become more, let's say, tough in life. Right, Miss Valerie?
Yes.
So before we go on, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, or our third season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the best executive chef in one of the best uh, restaurant in downtown Toronto. So please do listen to our latest episode, How to Make Tomato Sauce, one of the matter sauces that you need to know. And plus one more, please do grab a copy of my poetry book called Abstract Poetry Volume 2, Famous People. So I did say a great poetic words for those famous people like Aristotle and a lot more. So please do grab a copy, people, because it's one of a kind poetry that you need to read. So, Miss Valerie, maximizing life, what is the best advice that they can get on your book?
The best advice they can get is to invest in yourself, to create the best version of yourself every day. And the 4 steps that I talk about that in my chapter 1 is basically like I spoke earlier about the airplane, letting the things of the past go. And also identifying chapter 2, your limiting beliefs, the things that your head, the voices that want to talk in your head that want to hold you back. We've got to break those. And then there's also self-love. So learning self-love, it's so important to take time out for yourself, to know who you are, and also to be vulnerable, because you can't have love and success without vulnerability. So having to let the walls down that we like to put up whenever we get hurt, but those walls have to come down if you want to live an amazing life. I had walls up for years and I kept the good and the bad out. So I don't even know how much good I kept out. So I had to learn to let the walls down so the good could come in.
Yes, Miss Valerie, can you give an advice for those people that have this low esteem, that they don't have the self confidence from themselves, that they can do anything on
Yeah.
earth?
So I would say to somebody, I would really look at them and find out, what they're good at. And a lot of times people don't have self-esteem because it's something that somebody in their childhood said over them. And I want them to realize that's just somebody's opinion of what they said over you. That doesn't have to be reality or truth. And so I would say stop rehearsing that in your head, because it's not truth. And self-esteem, self-confidence is like a muscle. So it's by doing the hard things, getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that are uncomfortable, because by doing that, it's like you're building muscle, you're getting stronger, and you build your self-esteem every time you do that. In over time of just doing little tiny things like that daily, you'll be surprised how quickly your self-esteem will start coming up.
Indeed, Miss Valerie, very well said. So, how do I overcome my self doubt?
Overcome your self-doubt. So that's what I was talking about, those limiting beliefs, those voices in our head that maybe want to say, you don't have the right education, you're not smart enough, you're not tall enough, you're not good looking enough, you don't have enough money, you came from the wrong family, all of those things that want to play in our head that bring us self-doubt. You have to come to a point in your life that you take the time to build a relationship with yourself, because every relationship you have in life is an extension of the one you first have with yourself. So you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to take the time into knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, and capitalizing on the good and just building yourself up. And when you do that, you'll realize self-doubt just starts going away, because you begin to learn your value and your worth, and you no longer look to other people to bring you value and worth. You find it in yourself. And so when other people don't value you or don't feel like you're worth anything, it doesn't really affect you as strongly whenever you have that strong relationship with yourself to come back to.
Yes, very well said, Miss Valerie. And how about how can I embrace my unique identity?
Oh, I love that one. I love authenticity. That is, there's nothing to me better than when a person is their authentic self. And you can tell when someone's being their authentic self. And I just, I love when people just, again, you have to be authentic. You have to know who you are. You have to get out there and try new things and find out what you're good at. And, be okay to start using your voice and say what you mean and mean what you say, and just be your authentic self. And even if that means that you're going to lose some friendships or some people in your life, it'll make room for the right people to be in your life that will accept you for your authentic self. I would rather be loved being my authentic self than be loved for something I'm trying to be that I'm truly not, right? So I just encourage people to work on you and allow your authentic self to shine every day.
Yes, as you said, embrace your true selves and thrive in your unique authenticity. Oh, I love that, Miss Valerie. Very well said. So, can you please invite our listeners to buy your book?
Yes. So my book, Maksymizing Life, it's on Amazon. And you can also find it on my website, maksimizinglife.com. There's a link there. And again, it's spelled Maksymizing life.com. It also is in audible form. So those of you that like to hear someone reading to you, I do read the book. So on Audible, you can find it. And I read it. And it's also on Kindle.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Valerie Maksym, because if you support her, she will give her best and more books to come.
Yes.
writing right now your second book, right?
Oh,
Can we
yeah.
do have a little bit information about that?
So my second book is going to be around authenticity. It's going to be around, it's going to be, the subject's going to be around how to be your authentic self, how to find your voice, how to, it's going to be played around unleashing your inner superhero. It's going to be around superheroes. So basically teaching you how to get out of your comfort zone into, explore and do and just really become who you were created to be, find your passions, your purpose, and all doing this in your authentic self. So that's a little bit about it, but there's so much more. I'm very, very excited about this next book coming out.
Yes, can you come back and promote your second book, Miss Valerie?
Yes, and we are projected to have it up in December, so that is the goal.
Okay, good luck for your second book. So, if you describe maximizing life in 5 adjectives, what are they?
Maximizing life in 5 adjectives. So authenticity, um, self-confidence. Okay, so we said authenticity, self-confidence, self-worth, knowing your self-value, self-love.
Yes, very well said, Miss Valerie, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed this.
Bodycom people, see you soon.